I hereby call the Administration and Public Works Committee of the Evanston City Council to order. We have a quorum. 2 public speakers tonight to begin with. Mr. Jason Schwartzworld to start.
Hi. Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I am here basically to contest the amount of, I guess the amount of money for the alley paving project. I own, with my father, 1404 Darrow. It's a 5-unit apartment building that we bought in 2013. It was in complete shambles. We, spent our blood, sweat, and tears fixing it up, putting in good tenants. And on this project, you guys have decided to go with the unit assessment. And basically, we're responsible for 12.5% of the entire project, which, we feel is quite harsh. And my father would like to make a few comments.
Okay, either one of us are lawyers, so don't. Okay. There's 24 lots that abut to this alley. 1/24 of the project would be just and equitable, not 12.5%. If you want to go by linear feet, that would be just and equitable. This unit count is not just and equitable. I don't see him here tonight. Dan Manis, I think that's his name. He had sent us a copy of the statute on how you go about doing the assessments. And I guess the statute reads, "The officer making the roll shall certify under oath that he believes that the amounts assessed against the public and each parcel of property are just and equitable, and that no lot, block, tract, or parcel of land has been assessed more than its proportionate share of the cost of the improvements." 12.5%, in my opinion, isn't just and fair. The person that's going to sign this document, is he here tonight?
I'm sorry.
The person that's going to sign this document, is he here tonight?
There are several people that would sign the document for the Board of Local Improvements.
That it's just and equitable.
It can be the Public Works Agency Director. It can be myself as the Secretary of the Board.
Okay.
So yes, a person that will sign the document is here.
Okay. Could you explain to us how you took this approach and how is it just and equitable?
That would be at the direction of the chair.
Please.
The Board of Local Improvements held a public hearing on this process, and during that process, we went through the calculation, and the majority of the property owners that had signed, I can't say that all of them were there, but there was attendance at that hearing. The methodology of doing the units method is that the alley is used not by necessarily linear feet, it is used by cars, and units of residents have cars in them. So the more cars being used on the alley, the more benefit from the alley. We do the same thing when we have 2 flats or 3 flats and use a units method. During that night for the public hearing, this was all clearly explained.
What was the date on that hearing?
Yeah, we never were notified of that hearing.
Every property owner was notified of the hearing.
What was the date of the hearing?
hearing?
It seemed like it was done by that point.
It was all done by that point.
It didn't matter what we said.
Okay.
Actually, it did matter what you said. Any member, any resident that night could have chosen to change their vote. And in the past 3 to 4 years, we have had alleys that were approved via the petition that were then reversed that night due to the results of the public hearing. So at that night, it was an open discussion. Nothing was a done deal, and any member could have changed their vote to Now, at that point in time, was the Board of Local Improvements had decided that the units method was the most equitable at that point, and that was included in the literature.
Okay, then one more thing that I want to challenge here. We were given this sheet here that talks about the unit count, and I went to the county record and I checked each one of them. Okay, the parcel number, the last one down here, 10-13-419-041000. That's listed as one unit, not two. And also with that meeting, there were two other people here that said that their units, one of them, I think her name was Mrs. Reed. She said that she was listed as two units and she only had one, and she was going down to the county to correct it. And there was another man there too. I didn't get his name. He said the same thing. So this count that you have 50%, I'm questioning if this is really correct.
And we will, for
this
this, we
for
do
sure.
take this to the county for certification on all of those parcels.
Because if you go to the website and you check this last one, it shows as one.
Alderman Rainey?
I'm not weighing in on either side of this alley because I don't know anything about it. But what I do know is that in an alley paving meeting where there was a lot of opposition in my ward, we were told, I believe, that you can use both methods in one alley paving. You can assess based on linear and on, what's the other one, unit, linear and unit within one. That would really be the answer to your problem. But
I'm unaware of that,
some of our alley
using them
pros
both.
are here, I
Mr.
guess.
Stonebeck?
Oh, there's
Do you
Mr.
have,
Stone.
please. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Hey, Mr. Stonebeck.
With leave of the board, Mr. Stonebeck.
Good evening, Dave Stonebeck, Public Works Agency Director. For the alley that Alderman Rainey references, the alley in which the synagogue is located, and because it was considered to be one unit, it was determined that property would go with lineal foot, and the rest of the properties could go as unit price. But that is different, in my opinion, in this circumstance that we're talking about. With this 5-unit, it's not as large of a property as the synagogue property is, and therefore whether this would be more equitable or not is the question that I have at this time. I believe that the units method that we established, which is customarily used on residential properties, and that's what this is, they're all residential properties, that the units method is the appropriate way to go. The alley in which Alderman Rainey references has a different type of use in residential property on it, and it was more equitable in that case, we felt. That's an item that's still coming to the BLI to put out a second type of petition for that particular alley. That's going to be discussed at an upcoming meeting.
Alderman Rainey?
But, Mr. Chairman, that alley could conceivably, with the synagogue there, we're talking about JRC, at the Mulford and Dodge. It could conceivably be more traffic, and they also have trucks in that alley too because of, so, I don't know, just thinking.
What?
This alley is, I don't think the whole,
Keep-
the buildings,
Can you,
Sir, can you
step
come
up
back
the mic?
to?
I don't believe that this alley is 50 feet. We could hire a contractor and pave the alley for.
Significantly.
So the process being that your neighbors actually, according to the memo, 55% actually requested this and signed the petition for the special assessment.
Well,
I understand
this,
your-
This isn't 55% according to the county.
I understand what you're saying in that regard. So what I would ask staff to do is confirm what you're saying is the number of units that are listed in the pins exactly. This is actually tonight, it's only going to be introduced, so it's not going to be approved tonight. It'll be approved at the next meeting of the council on next Monday, if that's correct.
Actually, it would be approved on the 27th,
27th.
so 2 weeks from tonight.
So what I would ask direct staff to do is actually confirm the unit counts as you're saying per the pins in that regard. Now, we had a proper hearing and notice of those hearings regarding how we were actually doing the special assessment before, so we can't overturn that in regard, but we can see if the unit is correct, the unit number is correct. So we have 2 weeks before this actually be finalized. We'll have staff check into that. And can someone from staff actually get the contact information for these two gentlemen so we can contact? Okay. So that's what we'll do tonight, if that's okay. And in 2 weeks, we'll actually finalize and see what happens with the actual approval of it.
Well, okay, so like I said
Oh, the
before,
23rd, sorry.
we're not lawyers. We didn't have a real good understanding when we were at that meeting, and the way they explained it to us wasn't clear to us. So,
So, Mr. Stonebeck, you'll be in contact with them as well and answer any questions that they may have? Okay. It's not going to be approved tonight. It's just being introduced. It'll be approved at the next meeting. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I mean, I appreciate that you came in at the meeting. We made note that it would be discussed with the council 2 times. So you're doing the right thing. So we don't want to in any way have the proceedings, give anyone the thought that you're not just proceeding ahead, trying to understand all your rights as a property owner. And we will go back, review the county records, be in touch with you directly. And Mr. Chair, if there is anything that calls into question the proceedings, then we will report back to the council that way with options. Because can I ask one question? That if it was more equitable in your mind, would you be supportive of the alley?
Sure, of course.
And that's not that's one thing. If you didn't want the alley no matter what,
1.5% is just like,
and that's
It's probably more based on the people that fall into the income where, they have grants monies for it.
no, that doesn't actually change your cost at all.
okay.
Not our cost, but my percentage of the total.
No, it still
Out-of-pocket?
does not change it.
For sake, we can go back and forth.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you coming out. We'll look into your concerns as well. We'll have our staff look at it, get in contact with you, and we'll have another opportunity to review what the findings are at that time. And you'll also speak with staff in the meantime about your concerns as well, if that's okay. No final action is going to be taken tonight.
Okay, one other thing. Though.
Sure.
When you drive through the neighborhood and you look at the houses in there, you see one mailbox, and these houses have like unit counts of 2. Maybe, because they're old houses, maybe years ago they took in boarders, but today, most of these houses that are 2, there's only one mailbox.
We'll have staff check into it. That's the best answer we can give you, because I can't speculate what the houses are doing right now. But we do have process and procedures for confirming that the unit count is correct, or that according to the assessor as well. So please come back in a week. Staff will be in touch with you in the meantime,
On
though.
the 27th?
Yes.
27th.
And it will not be at this meeting. It will be at the council meeting at approximately 8 o'clock. So it won't come back to the committee. It goes to the council at that point.
8 o'clock.
Well, but by that time, we will have had discussions. So we will.
We'll be sure to have you.
Same place on the 27th?
Right here.
Yes.
Right here.
Okay. What time?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, okay.
Alderman Miller.
Alderman Rainey.
I have one other question. I don't want to wait till we go through the agenda. Because when you do unit count, they're paying 12.5% of the total. Do they get 12.5% of the total vote? Or do they get one vote like a single-family house? They get 5 or 5? Oh, okay. Okay, that's good.
So moving along to the main agenda. Alderman Braithwaite, will you move to approve the minutes?
Yeah. Chair, I'd like to approve the minutes from the May 23rd, 2016 meeting.
Are there any corrections or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Rainey, the bills and the payroll.
Do you want me to do them all? I'll do it.
Please.
City of Evanston payroll, May 2, through May 15, $2,708,198.54. The payroll through May 29, $2,752,062.95. City of Evanston bills through June 14, $5,830,986.25. Credit card activity, $169,437.21. I move recommendation of the council.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Holmes, A31.
Okay, thank you. A31, purchase of 3 replacement vehicles from the Rush Truck Center of Northern Illinois and the Pattern Caterpillar. Staff recommends approval of an International Harvest 7400 purchase with Rush in the amount of $205,609. From Caterpillar in the amount of $55,180. And,
Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry.
I just would like to do a clarification. It says 3 vehicles, but the trailer is not listed separately, so the trailer
Well,
and
it's
the
included.
skid steer are together.
Okay, so the trailer then is the 42,159? I'm trying to break it out the way it's written here.
It is not broken out.
Okay, so then it's a 205 and the $205,609 from Rush, and then $55,180 from Caterpillar.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Braithwaite, A32.
Alderman, I'd like to move item A 3.2. It's the contract with Wentworth Tire Services for tire repair. Staff's recommended the City Council authorize City Manager to execute a 1-year contract with 2 1-year renewals for the tire repair recap services in the dollar amount of $24,672, and that's to Wentworth Tire Services, North York Road in Bentonville, Illinois.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Rainey, A33.
Yes. We're asked to recommend to the council the contract with Roush Infrastructure, LLC, for Isabella Street Bridge Deck Rehab Project in the amount of $245,870.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Holmes, A34.
A34, amendment number 1 to the engineering service contract with ESI Consultant LTD for the Isabella Street Bridge Deck Rehabilitation Project in the amount of $40,063.91.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Braithwaite, A35.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the funding of the 2016 special assessment improvements, the projects for 129.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Rainey, A36.
This is for action, and we're being asked by staff to accept and place this report on file. Line of credit renewal with the First Bank and Trust. They're going to renew the agreement with First Bank and Trust to have access to a line of credit up to an amount of $4.9 million to use in Dempster Dodge TIF District and the Chicago, Maine TIF District.
Second.
Okay. With leave. Assistant City Manager.
Mr. Chair, Alderman Rainey, I apologize. This should have just been for action and business by motion because it is a renewal of a contract. It is not a resolution, so it should just be business by motion. I'm sorry, I did not see that.
Okay.
So
Nothing changes. I mean,
No, it does not change. It's still for action, but it is, we changed this, and per our conversations the Alderman and I had via email, our original line of credit was for multi-year for the Howard Ridge and West Evanston TIF, and this, when we set it up, was set to be an annually renewing. It was more in line with what the rate that First Bank was charging us, and definitely a clearer line of credit.
that was seconded, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Holmes, 837.
837 claim true-up fee for the third-party administration of general liability and workman's comp claims in the amount of $22,120. Move approval, I'm sorry.
Second.
Second.
Alderman Rainey.
I appreciate the work staff did providing us with all the lists of the hundreds and hundreds of claims, some closed, some open. But I didn't find it very helpful at all. There were numbers, there were names, but there were no numbers. So it didn't really mean anything to me other than we had a whole bunch of claims. Some were open, some were closed. It didn't do a thing for me. And I think it would have been helpful to give us the amounts. I would have rather have seen the amounts than the names. Just
Mr. Assistant City Manager.
Alderman Rainey, we can follow up with that as a communication to council.
next time, you know.
Okay.
I mean,
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Braithwaite, 838.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move item 838, approval of the payment to Cradle to Career. Staff is recommending City Council authorize City Manager to execute the payment in the amount of $50,000 to support the ongoing efforts of the Cradle and Career Initiative.
Is there a second? Second. And there's a presentation on this item. Mr. Hemingway, are you going to be handling this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. Just a quick, brief update of some of the actions and accomplishments of Cradle to Career. As you guys know, Cradle is a collective impact of over 40 local agencies here in the city of Evanston that has come together to try to improve the lives of young people. While we're here, as you guys know, there's a long-standing social inequities in our community that have resulted in many Evanston youth being unprepared for success as adults. Cradle is committed to the idea that every child in Evanston deserves an equitable opportunity to a fulfilling and productive adulthood life. Also, Cradle wants to uphold a common agenda addressing the reality of complex social conditions that hinder some children in this community. Some of its accomplishments to date: Cradle has improved access to existing services for families facing social inequities that contribute to the disparity in the community literacy, developed a partnership with NU civic engagement program, increased success at key transition points for students and families. This summer, we are targeting the summer reading loss to prevent as much of that as possible. Cradle's also embedded the commitment of equity in all the work of not just Cradle, but all its 40 member organizations. And also, Cradle has created a citywide understanding of the impact of childhood trauma on literacy. We're here today to ask approval of the $50,000 to continue the support of this very important work in this community. Any questions?
Mr. Chair. Just one follow-up. Last week, I attended the United Way annual lunch which the city was recognized at, but also at which Sheila Mary got up and was given quite a long time at the podium because the United Way was so impressed with the amalgamation and all of these different groups working together. They think it is just a great innovative program that they would like to see used in a variety of settings. So they got special recognition by the United Way.
Alderman Rainey?
And are they funding it?
Yes.
They are?
Yes.
Can you tell us the budget for Cradle to Career?
I do not have the budget. We can do that as a follow-up.
Yes, yes, ma'am, I can forward you their budget.
And how much is United Way funding it?
It's 150 over the next 3 years. Is that,
3 years.
if I remember? I don't have it in front of
So
me.
is
I don't
everybody
remember.
doing 50, more or less? No.
I thought just the larger agencies.
The larger agencies,
Doing
but
50.
United Way is doing much more than that, 150, I believe it is.
But it's for 3 years, right? That's a good thing.
Mr.
So
Hammond?
the city, the 2 school districts, and
Northwestern.
Northwestern have all committed to 50.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Rainey, A39.
Yes. We're being asked to recommend to the council the creation of a Robert Crown Community Center Maintenance Fund in the 2019 annual budget, and it's for long-term infrastructure maintenance having to do with the new, I guess, the proposed Robert Crown Center, right? And the fields surrounding it. And it will be funded out of revenues from the center.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'd like to say, though, I was actually complimenting our assistant city manager earlier before the meeting started about this plan. I think it's great. I think we should be doing this with most of our facilities, most of our assets in general. And I think it's very thorough and practical. So I appreciate you taking the effort to lay this out in such a way. And I think it's a great first step towards planning for these type of needs and contingencies in the future. So thank you for that. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Holmes, A310.
A310, a sidewalk cafe for Smiley Brothers Brewing Company at 1615 Oak Street. This is a first-time application for this cafe, and I would move approval, and I also have a question.
Second.
Alderman Holmes.
I just happened to be down at the post office one bright day, and people were already out on the patio.
Right.
And so I'm just wondering what happens. Is it that we're late getting them, or?
No.
An addition.
This is on the outside of the wall.
Oh,
You know,
outside the wall?
there's the stone walls. This is actually for a road next to it.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that because I was looking. I didn't realize that we had this on the agenda. So when I got this on the agenda, I thought, well, why? This is already there. I saw people
Right,
eating out there.
right.
So this is on
Expanding
the
it.
public sidewalk?
Right.
Correct.
Right. Alderman Rainey.
This is like the regular,
Regular one, rather than their
regular
own patio.
sidewalk cafes that people have.
Okay.
The one that you saw is on private property. It's on their own property.
Oh, okay.
So, I know, it's not really the first one.
All right.
But it's the first one
It's
in
the
the
first time
public
I had
land.
ever noticed it, and it's just only because I was at the post office and happened to see it. That's the only reason why I was asking the question.
It's a great patio.
Oh, it is. It's wonderful. People seem to have been enjoying themselves.
Further discussion?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Braithwaite, A311.
This is a sidewalk cafe for Panera. So, and this is actually for action. Staff's recommending City Council approval for a first-time application for a sidewalk cafe permit for Panera Bread.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Rainey, A312.
First-time sidewalk cafe for recommendation to the council, Capital Coffee and Eatery.
Second.
That's it.
All those in favor say aye.
Not much to say. Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Holmes, A313.
A313 Storefront Modernization Program application for 2012 Central Street in the amount of $9,026.75 for painting, signage, and installation of new windows.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Alderman Rainey.
Do these go before DAPR?
He's shaking
I
his
don't
head.
think
yes.
so.
In the, Madam Chair, according to our CD director, yes.
Has this one been to DAPR?
With leave, Director Munzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Rainey, it did go to DAPR for concept review. They're reviewing a white facade and a darker facade, and they got our input on it. They will have to come back prior to getting a building permit. Staff indicated a preference for the darker facade, but the whole point of DAPR concept review is to have more of an informal review, let them take in that information and then make a decision how they want to proceed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Braithwaite, A4.
I'd like to move item A4, it's Resolution 41-R-16, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract amendment number 2 for the residential solid waste service agreement with Groot.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yes, it fails.
Alderman Rainey, was that?
I'm still on
A second.
I'm still on the storefront.
Do you,
It's okay, let it go. It's going to be all
oh,
right.
wait. Okay, so
It's
there's
just
motion
more-
having been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Lord have mercy.
Mr. Stonebeck, real quick.
Oh, it was reduced. I think that's probably important.
Do you want
know,
to?
yeah, you wanna
So
give
this
us
was. Do you want to clarify? But also, I just have a question, somewhat related.
Chair and members, yes, this actually reduced the cost and brought it back into line with the 5% reduction that we were anticipating getting.
So there was a mistake in.
There was a mistake in the actual amendment, a typo.
Quick question: how's the camera use on the trucks going so far?
Oh, yeah, we talked about it.
They have not submitted any photos to us at this point in time, but then we haven't gotten any complaints about excessive
Okay,
at any location.
What?
Alderman Rainey.
I'm constantly submitting overflowing dumpster reports, and I
see why they don't see 'em.
wonder, I mean, 2100 block of Howard today, an overflowing dumpster, and it's been like that for 3 weeks, the resident tells me, and I thought, why don't the drivers just, talk into their iPhones and send us the note? Overflowing dumpster.
This is news to me. I will find out who's getting, these are 311 requests that are being put in? or-
I don't know if I think, yes, I believe they said they sent it to 311, and then they wrote to me. And I was told, we will go out and assess the need for an additional dumpster or something. And I said, I'm not telling the resident
I'm
that.
sorry, I was unaware of these. I will look into this, and with Groot, they should be taking photos of when they see dumpsters that are overflowing, and they should be submitting those to the city, and I'll look into all this, and I'll be on Groot right away to make sure that this is handled appropriately.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you. You may have answered the question. I was going to follow up and ask, what's the process? Because I remember sitting at the table to discuss it. So is it by 311, or basically, so either residents or aldermen are going to notify our city staff, and maybe it'll float to you or not. How do we go from you, city staff, to Groot to make sure that they snap the picture and we?
As soon as I'm aware of it, I'll be talking to Groot. I'll get if there is a current list of properties where this has occurred, I'll get a hold of Groot right away and say, look, we've had these complaints. You're contractually required to provide us the photos.
Right.
We want the photos, and I'll start meeting with them monthly if I need to.
Okay.
We are meeting with them quarterly now, but we'll increase that if they're not living up to their requirements.
And then just, if I recall from the meeting, and then the other question was the missed routes. So are they, if we're not getting the photos, are they at least getting the information regarding the missed trash routes.
They are
How's that
getting that,
information
those
being communicated?
311 concerns go directly to Groot, and we are tightening them up with Groot on making sure that there are, before they would just close them and then schedule to go pick them up. Now we're indicating that they have to put a comment in as to when the actual pickup will be so that the resident understands it won't be the next day. It might be 2 days later, and then if it isn't picked up then the resident could contact us again. And again, I'm not getting the feedback, but that has not occurred, but I will look into it.
When you look into the cameras, can you come back? I'd be curious. When did we meet with them, Marty? Back in October?
Yeah, it was, yes.
Is it possible to do a quick comparison snapshot between October and now just to see if there's been a reduction in missed trash pickups?
There should be able to do that, yes.
Perfect.
I think we'd do that with it wasn't the heat map, we'd use the other block map that showed the instances.
That would be great. Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Director Munzer, we're just going to take a quick question regarding item 313. It was already approved, but Alderman Holmes has a question.
I'm sorry, Director. I'm just a visual person, and you said something that I can't get the picture out of my head. So when they came to Dapper, and the question is, they want a light and you want a dark. I mean, Dapper wanted a dark. Is that?
Well, there was a lot of agreement. So they're consolidating the windows that are there. So Dapper like that. They're removing the awning. They're adding some new metal signage that we felt complemented the building. What it came down to in the concept was that the facade, to the best of my recollection, as they had proposed it, was to be an all-white aluminum cladding type facade, which would be very unique for Central Street. And what Dapper is always looking at is to see if the storefront will remain contextual with what is already in the neighborhood. And the general feedback was that white probably didn't do that. There was also concerns that it would get dirty very easily and that it wouldn't appear as it did before Dapper. So there was a darker option that they had as a plan B.
Oh,
but they
okay.
still have to come back to us.
Okay, thank you, because you said they'll have to come back before they get a permit, and I was thinking, is that a matter of taste or whatever? But I understand now. Okay.
And its concept review is, I won't say a matter of taste, but it's to talk about aesthetics and
Okay.
what if the two sides can come to agreement as to what it should look like.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Moving along, Alderman Rainey, item A5.
Yes. Mr. Chair, this is Resolution 46R16 for recommendation to the council. It is a sculpture easement at 525 Kedzie Street. That's at Main and Chicago. This is going to be purchased and installed by the developer.
Second.
And there are no fees going to be charged.
Quick question, Mr. Assistant City Manager, if you can handle this real quick. Do we have a review of the aesthetics of it? I'm not saying I'm debating it. I'm just wondering what the process is normally for this, or Director Munzer.
Could you also tell us what it is?
That I'm going to struggle with, Alderman.
It's
Rainey.
abstract.
It's very abstract. It's about eight and a half feet tall, I believe, and it's red metal, and it's abstract. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, what is it? Yeah.
They never said exactly what it was,
Does it
other
have
than
a
that it was a
name?
sculpture.
Does it have a name?
It did have a name. It was from an artist, I believe,
is
in
it on?
Michigan, but I'm blanking out. We can get you that information.
But what is the process? Is there, my worry is, and I'm not one as a critic at all, do we follow some sort of process for approval of this, or was it?
It also went before at the Public Arts Council
Okay,
for
so they
their
did approve
input.
it?
So, typically we see these with planned developments
Right.
as a public benefit, so there's a much bigger conversation about it. We don't see them as kind of these side elements, so this one was rather unique. So we asked that they come to Dapper and then that they go to the Public Arts Council, and I also reviewed it with Alderman Nguyen.
Oh, Alderman Nguyen, you're saying? Yeah,
Correct.
What's that, 308?
It's in the package.
It's
a red.
on page 308, I think, or 307.
Got it.
I mean,
It just has a place where it's going to be placed, but I can't make out what it is. It's on page 308.
No, there's nothing, it just says that is where it will be.
Be placed, but it doesn't have.
It doesn't have a picture. I didn't think it.
It's on page 298, the packet is a picture of
298.
Oh, okay.
And it's 8 feet tall?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sure is. That's, yeah.
Oh, yes, it is abstract.
So
Very abstract.
Classic.
So I assume also, I mean, this is, there's no traffic concerns in terms of blocking a visual sense. I'm just making sure, just want to do the due
See right
diligence.
through it.
That's why all the city departments are there at Dapper.
Got you.
I would like to know the name of it. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Looks like a flag.
Want the naming rights? If there isn't a name?
So, Director Munzer, you can send us the name and other information? Okay. Any other further discussion?
No. Keep on moving.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Holmes, item A6.
Okay, ordinance 72-0-16, approving special assessments for 1516 for alley pavement. The estimated cost for this alley is $304,972.20, with the adjacent property owners' amount coming to $122,720.
Is there a second?
Move approval.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Braithwaite, A7.
Item 8, ordinance 73, 0-16, approving special assessments for 1519 for alley pavement. The cost is $285 and $35, and the owner's cost is $57,973.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Rainey,
For
A8.
introduction to the council is ordinance 74-016, approving a special assessment 1520 for alley paving for the alley north of Greenwood and east of Dodge. The project is estimated to be $259,910.50. And I'm not sure I understand the math here. So it's a 14, $186,640.50 is funded by the city. And then the adjacent property owners, their amount comes to $73,270.
Isn't this will come out some of the CDGB dollars? Isn't that not what it is?
So it's,
I believe.
I know, I see it's there, but I thought even with that, it should be 50/50. Anyway, I move introduction, we can talk about it.
Do you want to ask a question, or
I want to understand the math.
Mr. Assistant City Manager?
Mr. Chair, I'm just looking for the detail that might be, and I don't know if Mr. Stonebeck is also looking, or Ms. Biggs, the breakdown. I'm at about page 341. That's the last breakdown. But the report itself does not have the breakdown of special assessment, capital improvements, and resident. Ms. Biggs?
Also, Mr. Chair, the previous one has the same math issues, I think. And I know I'm missing something, so.
Alderman, so there is a table that's located in a previous packet on the funding for the special assessment alley improvements in general on page 137 of the packet, and that shows the 3 alleys that we are proposing to do the general breakdown and funding between the CIP, general obligation bonds, the sewer, and the CDBG. The detailed costs, we don't have individually in each packet. That's some additional information that could be provided.
But the question is, usually when we get an alley project, we're told the cost of the alley is $200,000. The residents will pay 50%, 100,000. Isn't that correct? And the city will pay the other 100,000?
In this case, the CDBG funding is being used to offset the residents' cost, and that's
Both alleys?
the siege,
One.
just one of the alleys.
Well, then tell me about 72016.
So,
Alderman Rainey, you are correct, and we can provide the breakdown in the way we've done it in the years past, where we had the small table that would show resident portion, other funding portion, geo bond portion, special assessment portion, and we can have that for the adoption or for action 2 weeks from now, or we can have it between now and then for the committee's review.
Would that suffice, Alderman Rainey?
It does, but it's really, I mean, we've been doing alleys all this year and last year, and I don't remember, I mean, I understand when we do an alley with CDBG money, there's no assessment.
Well, we had this discussion at, I want to say, when this came for the committee before, didn't we, Mr. Stoneback? I think we did, because I remember asking some questions about it, and I can't.
We had a discussion about supplementing capital money with CD money.
Right,
That's
for
fine
these
with me.
alleys,
But,
okay.
I mean, why all of a sudden are people not paying 50% of the alley? I mean, they either should or shouldn't.
so in this case, the CDBG funding wasn't enough to completely offset the residents' share.
I think we should wait and get it explained in paper.
Absolutely, we will provide that additional information.
So are you asking that it be held or that it be?
No.
Just before
Yeah.
the next meeting,
Before the next meeting,
Okay.
yeah.
provide the information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Rainey, A8.
A8.
She just read A8.
I thought you had
This is-
A7.
No,
It's Holmes, that's A9.
I have A9, it
You have an
just did it.
She did A8?
I did
Okay.
A8.
My apologies.
Problem.
Alderman Holmes in A9.
Ordinance 76-0-16, authorizing 2016 A and B general obligation bond issuance for funding year 2016 A and B bonds, not to exceed 14 million, and 2016 B general obligation bonds not to exceed 8,155,000.
Second.
Do I need to go any farther on that? I don't think so. Is that it, Director Lyons?
Yes, that is.
Okay. So I would move approval.
I second.
Any discussion? Mr. Assistant City Manager, there's some projects in here, not a number, a couple that we're not sure we're going to proceed with. For example, police body cameras. Is that projected to be going forward in the next year, or what are we thinking? What's in terms of the plan?
That is the possibility, and that is per the capital improvements plan, also included or also allowable when we do the bond issue, is that there is the ability to substitute if that is required, as long as it is of a similar nature. So we did wish to move forward with, in the case of the cameras, there's also the thought that if it's not for body cameras, it will be for neighborhood cameras and other cameras utilized by the police department.
And then in regards to, there's two projects without any allocation, the snap lighting and, where was it? The comprehensive signs. Are we just having them in there? What's the thought is?
The snap lighting would have been from CDBG, my apologies. That should have been just not listed.
Just
It
not
was-
listed, okay.
Yeah. And I will check the other one.
We allocated a goodly amount to it.
Just, what page are you on?
It's 345.
Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. A10, Alderman Braithwaite.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move item A10, ordinance 68-0-16, decreasing the number of Class D liquor license for, anyone want to try that one? Yeah, that DBA Thai Suk D.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. And that concludes our regular order of business. We have one item for discussion. This is revising Title III, Chapter 17 of the Taxi Cab and Motor Vehicle Code. Mr. Corporation Counsel, do you want to review the memorandum to begin with?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And members of the committee, Grant for our Corporation Counsel. With respect to the prior direction received from this committee, staff went back and looked at the 18 pages of the taxi regulations that were first codified by the City Council in the late 1970s, early 1980s, and revised last substantively in the 1990s, and took a look at those regulations with a couple of differing factors in mind. Number one, with respect to the information that has been gathered by staff relative to the status of the taxi business within the city of Evanston, how that business has evolved over time and how that interfaces with the city of Evanston regulations currently, and also with a mind towards the previously codified direction of the City Council in early 2015, which by resolution elected to defer regulations of transportation network providers to a situation where it would mandate that TNPs, as they're colloquially known, operating in Evanston, adhere to state regulations. So with those parameters in mind, what this memorandum is seeking tonight from this committee is further direction with respect to the full ambit of the regulations. And one of the things that the law department is proposing, that if the direction would be to regulate or deregulate, as the case may be, those regulations certainly could be done. It could take 18 pages of code and condense it down to 3 or 4 pages, which certainly would benefit the users of the system and the expectations of all concerned. And also, what it could do is it could make the playing field level in all respects. If one of the consistent refrains, one of the consistent themes expressed by the taxi cab industry, both before this body and at meetings convened by and between those entities and staff, was the clear desire on their part to be deregulated, to have fees and costs reduced, and have licensing by the city reduced in a very straightforward and substantive manner. If that were to be the case, it would make great legal sense to make deregulation harmonize with TNPs and the status of regulation in the city, which follows state regulation. So what it could be done is we could have all applications for taxi cabs go away. However, we could clearly mandate with certainty that taxis operating within the city of Evanston, that they comply with all state of Illinois vehicle code regulations, that they take and pass the safety test, which is required by the Illinois Vehicle Code, which is conducted by the Secretary of State, that they maintain insurance, that they maintain proof of financial responsibility, which is also another set of regulations that are clearly set out in the Illinois Vehicle Code. And also, if the subsidized, the senior citizen and disabled cab program would be continued, perhaps it may make sense, and staff is seeking direction on this issue, to have it apply and perhaps open up to TNPs that may want to use the $6 system. But that's obviously a policy decision. So what we tried to do in thinking this through and discussing this with the committee, and certainly looking forward to answering your questions, is how we could make common sense revisions, simplification of regulations, respond to the requests of the taxi cab industry, and also seek to harmonize that with the TNPs that are operating within Evanston.
Alderman Rainey.
My preference would be to completely deregulate municipally and to simply have the taxi cab companies and Uber and Lyft operate under state statute. I don't see any reason to say to a taxi cab driver, you must have a driver's license. And that's really what we're saying. In order to operate a motor vehicle, we want the Evanston cabs that operate in Evanston to follow the state regulations, which they know they have to have. They came here complaining that not only do they have to follow the state regulations, but then we duplicate the state regulations and even charge more money. So I think we should just do a hands-off, just deregulate completely. And I oppose allowing Uber to have the senior citizen coupons. And I think it would be next to impossible, given Uber's structure, to accept the coupons because of the way they charge you by way of a credit card. So I think that, this is an Evanston program and should be devoted totally to Evanston businesses. And so that's what I think, that we should just have I think probably the Evanston cab companies need a business license, maybe, one big business license for each cab company, but not for each driver, so that we can keep track of who gets the senior citizen coupons. But I support just ripping up our ordinances having to do with taxi cabs and letting the state run the program.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Alderman Rainey, I think I'm very close to supporting you in that, but I am asking a couple of questions. And first of all, was any member of this committee able to attend that meeting or receive an invitation?
Yeah, we were notified of the meeting. I couldn't
Just
go.
not attended, okay. So a couple of quick questions that I had. When I asked for the operational costs, I was trying to understand the total cost of operating cab, which meant their personal expenses. I received a notification from Ms. Marie that talked about a lot more expenses than what I'm seeing here in terms of just a ton of things that you would never even imagine that they would have. So I would hope at some point to see all of those expenses so we can completely understand what the cost of doing business is, which would include the state expenses as well. So if they have to pay licensing fees, et cetera, to the state, I would also like to understand that. I don't know if that question goes to...
Well,
everybody does, but again, I just want to understand what those costs are. And then to also to further understand how these costs, if we were to eliminate them, would have an impact on our city budget. I have no idea where I can find this budget line. So I was asking Marty if you can pull it up, and if you can't do it now, it's maybe a discussion at another meeting.
I can answer that.
Oh, perfect.
With respect to the renewal fees and the annual licensing fees, which we're not getting right now because there are no new cabs coming in, the budget line item is approximately $30,000 a year, all in, but it's steadily decreasing.
Okay, so we're not going to...
But what are the expenses in that?
Well, we have Mr. O'Sullivan, who probably devotes about 50% of his time, and a large majority of that time is going out and doing the safety inspections, which are duplicative of the safety test, which is conducted at the Secretary of State facility.
Yep.
So we probably don't have much revenue left over after our expenses.
At very best, it would be a netting out.
So we could literally zero it out and not feel the pay.
Alderman Holmes.
Well, I certainly would support you, Alderman Rainey, on the suggestion. I think that it's a good one. And I also would support the idea of not extending to Uber or Lyft the taxi benefit for the seniors, number one, not only because of the way they bill, but I think it would be too confusing for seniors. I just do. And so I think that would be best left for the taxis.
Alderman Rainey.
So what's our path?
Well, can I clarify too? I just want to make sure that we, there's a deregulation in terms of like the inspection and, the various licensing requirements and the money, but I also want to make sure we maintain the medallion system for people that have actually bought into it. I don't want to see other cab companies coming from outside the city limits that don't have medallions. I just want to make sure we don't completely open up the cab market in Evanston in that regard, just for clarity. I don't know if anyone agrees with me on that.
What does that mean?
I mean, I don't want to, we have a significant number of individuals who have purchased medallions at great cost to themselves to have, to be able to operate in Evanston. So if we completely deregulate it, we're actually potentially opening it up to any cab that wants to come to the city limits. I just want to make sure we maintain the medallions. If people have medallions currently, that we make sure we still have those in the current or the new regulations. Not saying we have to purchase or put them up for auction, just if there's a current medallion that actually is protected.
So what's the value then of a medallion?
Access to the market. If you don't have a medallion going forward, I'm saying, you actually, because we have people that purchased, what's the average cost of medallion, Mr. City Manager?
It's dropped significantly. I think there were $70,000 or $80,000, and I think they're $10,000 or $20,000 or less.
So, if someone spent that much money to have access to our market, I would like to protect that portion of their investment for as long as possible. So it's one thing to deregulate and remove our regulation, and the cost of doing so. But if we just completely remove the medallion system, we're creating an open market and potentially devaluing these investments even more.
And Alderman Miller, members of the council, that's going to be precisely my point, is you are deregulating, but you are still protecting. And so as long as the council feels comfortable with that you're protecting those medallion holders. So you are deregulating the system totally for their benefit and no one else's benefit. And you are protecting that value of that medallion. And that's a policy question for the city council. But certainly, as you have heard the corporation council, without making keeping that change, keeping the medallions in place, then I think you're going against what the medallion holders are wanting. They want to be protected, but they do not want to be regulated. And so if that is what the council feels
regulated by the city,
by the city,
it's extensive state regulations, just for clarification.
Right. So that perhaps will be counterintuitive for some. So I just want to make sure that is clear. We're prepared to have an ordinance for your consideration and introduction, if not in 2 weeks, very soon thereafter, that would do that. But that will be counterintuitive to some, that we are deregulating and protecting those that currently have the medallions in Evanston.
Alderman Rainey.
The point of my desire to deregulate is to completely wipe out all duplicative
fees,
legislation, fees, requirements, exams, schools, workshops, etc. Period.
And the staff is prepared to bring forward an ordinance per your direction. I felt it was important in my conversation with Alderman Miller, the same, that we just make this very clear this evening so that there are no surprises coming forward when the ordinance is brought for introduction. Thank you.
Alderman Holmes?
So how long then do we protect these medallions? And I is forever? That would be a question for me in terms of, and I understand that if people have, and I think that Mrs. Cadet, I believe her last name was, made it very clear that these are very valuable to them and they've spent life savings on them. I understand that. But and what cost to the city is it, and how long does the city protect them?
According to corporate counsel. Did I miss that?
But the money doesn't come to us.
Okay, now I'm confused.
That's not
that's a policy question for the council.
Well, in essence, and this is the hard thing, it's an evolving industry. So if we have, I don't know the gentleman's name that's currently spending 50% of his time on this, you were saying?
Steve.
We have a full-time staff person who spends half his time on this and works on other issues in the administrative adjudication office.
So, there's that potential decrease in costs if he's going to move on to other assignments, et cetera. But at the same time, there's still, if we maintain the taxi cab voucher program, there's that cost as well that we're losing the revenue from. So, I think it's probably, who knows what the actual effect of this is going to be. It's going to be a wash that we, gain the cost of staff, but we still have the cost of maintaining the cab voucher program, and we're not seeing the revenue from the fees and licensing and stuff in that sense. So who knows what it is? I think in terms of, I think it will be close to a wash, but we don't know the exact cost as this thing evolves. In terms of the lifespan of this, I think this is something we're going to have to, if you look at the drop in chauffeur licenses over the past couple of years, it's been steep. So we need to keep re-examining this, and also the potential, what's going to be the effect of Lyft and Uber and these other network providers coming in. We don't know, but for right now, I think we want to make sure that we're protecting the investment of the various cab drivers. That's my thought on it. Alderman Rainey?
On the matter of the medallions, there is a limitation on the number.
That's correct.
I think it was in our last the last time we discussed this, it was there.
The cap is 140.
140.
140 medallions.
Yes.
When was, and that's the limit. And how many are there? Are there 140 out there?
Well, not all of them are actively renewed. Our best estimate is there's approximately 100 out there right now.
Okay.
Currently, that have followed the renewal process.
And with no cost, my sense is those remaining 20 will come out of the woodwork and be renewed if there's no
I mean,
cost
I don't
associated
think
with
this
it.
is going to be that complicated.
Well, yeah, but I think they would have to maintain their renewal in order to keep them, though, right? I mean, that would be only fair.
So that would be another question. So is there an annual no-fee renewal
Could be,
of
well,
these medallions?
Or it could be a nominal fee renewal, so that there's a transaction.
No burden.
We're looking for direction.
Yeah.
I think we have to have more discussion.
Well, no, and this is what we're trying to give guidance to staff so they can come up with some sort of ordinance to present before us to have more discussion as well. I think there needs to be some sort of annual registration process. I'm fine with waiving the registration fee. That's fine with me. But so we actually know what cabs are operating, because we also have to be enforcing if there's cabs operating in Evanston without medallions, we'll have to have awareness of who's actually operating within our city. So I'm fine with the registration. I'd prefer not to see a fee attached to it. Alderman Braithwaite.
And so if I could just reiterate, it would be great to understand what the state charges and how they're regulating the cabs, because if we're not doing it, as long as it's picked up by the state, then it's not a big deal.
And I think one of the challenges is, and we're happy to bring this back, and again, Alderman Miller, I appreciate the discussion this evening because we want to bring back something that's understandable. But the realities of how this industry is changing, it's going to be very difficult to regulate cabs who don't have medallions, because they're going to hold up their smartphone and say, I'm an Uber driver, and City of Evanston, you don't regulate me. So I may be a regulated taxi cab in Niles or Lincolnwood or Northbrook or Wilmette, but I don't have to worry about it here because Hugh Evanston have deregulated me. So it might say taxi on my car, but it also has Uber in my back window. And so that's going to be part of the challenge with this. And I think
That is the reality right now.
and that is the reality.
Yeah, right now.
So we'll have 140 that are registered. We'll have every other cab driver in the area who wishes to do business here, who will be affiliated with Lyft or Uber. They will conduct their business, and we will have no recourse unless we pass additional ordinances that say the cabs, the vehicles cannot be marked as cabs, and only those 140, and that could be something. And then we're chasing after those marked vehicles saying you can't be marked, and then do we all of a sudden find, some covering that they have to put on? I mean, so I think Alderman Miller's thoughts on this I agree with, and that this is going to be a devolving industry, and that this may be helpful right now, but as we stand here 12 months, 18 months, 24 months ago from now, we may have a very different conversation, because the reality of the marketplace will be what it is.
And I don't think anyone could have anticipated the shift that's happened over 2-3 years with this as well. And I mean, that said, though, I think we need to do what we can to protect our medallion holders. So if that requires, we can't do anything about lifts operating in an unmarked fashion, but we can do anything about, there's other cab companies on the North Shore and in the city that we are operating cabs in other locations that will be coming in. So if we can make sure to protect our medallion holders against those cab companies.
So one thing we will need to then include, Mr. Corporation Counsel, is the requirement that the Evanston cabs be marked. Because going back to Alderman Braithwaite's point, one of the expenses is the markings of the vehicle to indicate that they are a Evanston medallion holder. So we will have to ensure then that expense continues in order to provide some level of enforcement.
Assuming that, these medallion holders, there haven't been any renewals or new purchases for a while, I assume they're marked. Most of them have to be marked because they've been operating under our system for the past couple of years that they've been.
But again,
right.
in an effort to make sure that we come back with an ordinance that has as few surprises as possible, this discussion is important, because operationally now we'll have to have an application. I think some small transactional fee makes sense, because we'll still have to have some staff member. If it's not Mr. O'Sullivan, someone will have to process this and still manage those 140. And I think we'll have to have some inspection to at least ascertain that these minimum requirements are done. That we'll have
State licensing.
We'll have to review paperwork. We'll probably also have to take a physical examination of the vehicle to ensure that it has the proper Evanston markings.
You're going way beyond what I'm going to support.
So, again, we very much want to give the council what you want. I think the challenge is it's just very difficult to thread this needle in a way that makes sense.
Alderman Rainey, you have further questions?
Yes, I do. on the medallion issue, I guess I agree that we should only have Evanston cabs in Evanston. I'm not even sure about that. But I think it's very important that the cab operators participate in this and help us through this side of the problem. But, putting your name on your cab, if you're a taxi driver, is just like having to pay for gas at the pump. I mean, it's part of everybody who does business has to have some way of advertising. That's their business. They have their taxi name. They have their name of the driver sometimes. So I mean, we can't control, oil changes and things in cabs. And those are some of the examples of what we got for the cost of doing business as a cab driver. And, I mean, Uber has those expenses too. So I want to relieve them of every duplicative expense that they pay to the city of Evanston, every rule that it copies from the state. But I don't know how much we can do. Keep the medallions, charge them $10 a year. I don't want us to have them do a physical exam. I mean, does the state require that?
And Alderman Rainey,
That's
we're
what we
not,
don't
but
understand.
I'm hearing from the committee that you're going to want to maintain some integrity of this program.
Let's have another meeting with the cab people and
So what,
get to the bottom.
Mr. Chair, perhaps I can offer this as a suggestion. I think we have clear what you'd like to see. We will put this into writing. We will have another meeting with those interested parties, and I believe Ms. Knapp and Mr. Farrar have those contacts. We'll share it with them, and we'll come back to you. Again, I think we're trying to give the committee what they want. We're trying to give the taxi medallion holders what they want. But I think we have to be honest that these are competing issues. And to, again, thread the needle in a way that provides everybody what they want is not necessarily a balanced process. But if you'd like, sir, we can do this, I think, over the next, probably the first meeting in July. Come back with a draft and having had the meeting and bring it back to the committee. So
Can we
we'd
be
like to
notified also, Wally?
Excuse me?
Notified of the meeting date?
Certainly.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you all. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Good. There's a second. So the Planning and Development Committee will be convened at 7:30 in 10 minutes.